We're in Q's Corner for Dunk Mama Media, where it's a network for student athletes as well as the athletes, the parents of student athletes, and to share their stories as well as share the platform to hopefully help somebody else along the way. Today we have a special guest, my favorite two people in the world, my parents, John and Loretta Thomas. Um, I've been interviewing a lot of athletes lately, but today I feel it will be special to interview my parents because they can give a parent's perspective. I think sometimes we forget about the parents that make the sacrifices for all of us as student athletes and beyond. So, John and Loretta, my parents, thank y'all for coming today and just giving us your time.
Thank you.
I'm ask you guys a few questions, and we're gonna have some fun. Just tell your story, express it the best you can, and we'll rock that way. First question: what sports or activities did you guys do growing up or participate in?
Sports activities I did when I was growing up, nothing. Uh, I'm not saying I didn't do anything, but I wasn't interested in sports. I was more interested in dance. I did watch the wrestling that came on Friday nights with my family. I did go to some wrestling matches, but other than that, no particular sports as you would call it. Pretty much just straight dance all the way through high school.
For me, it was started with soccer in elementary school, then playing football, flag football, then a little basketball in junior high, and then it was mainly football, playing with the Dynamites, and then in the high school Skyline, and then after that I was through with football, and college I just played intramural basketball. I enjoy basketball.
Well, being parents, of course, you guys, me being your son, and then you also have Asha Thomas being your daughter. At what point did you guys notice us taking a liking in sports or basketball? As well as at what point did you see that we possibly had a gift in what we enjoyed to do?
When did we see the talent in you and your sister? I would say that I didn't see talent at the beginning. I know when your dad and I were dating, he was into basketball, so I kind of got involved in basketball. And I felt that was something, let me learn a little bit about basketball. That's something that we can have in common. When you were born, you came home pretty much with a basketball in your hand and a pair of the baby blue and white Jordans. So that was just the style and the fashion then, but I didn't anticipate anything as far as seeing talent until you were probably around 8 or 9, getting involved more in team sports. I know in our home at the time you were born, we did have a little Nerf basketball court attached to the refrigerator where you would normally play, and you would play on your Atari. I didn't really recognize the talent of basketball until you were much older. Now your dad, that's a different story.
You enjoyed basketball, but you saw football too. And then I started you in soccer initially. But I could tell that you enjoyed sports, period. So it wasn't until I took you to a camp, just a summer camp, just at St. Leo's, to just exert some energy. And that's when I found out that you had a little talent, but it wasn't until after a coach there asked you or asked us if we would like to come out for AAU. All right, fine, but that was like 5 months away. So we asked for a number. I figured he's not going to call us back, mainly because he told us this was going to be for 11-year-olds. Eventually, we found out it was 12-year-olds, but at 11, I had to tell him, He's only 7. You're only 7. But he's good. Your son is good. I was like, okay. So we had 5 months. I wanted to just work you out, just learning how your left hand and your weak hand, all that stuff. And then when we got to the workout, I saw a smile. So that was about it.
So at an early age, mom said she noticed around 8 or 9 as far as the talent, but it seemed like since, like you said, fresh out the nursery, that I just had a liking or love for basketball. That transferred to AAU. You know, a lot of athletes play AAU basketball, and AAU usually doesn't start for everybody. It usually starts with the YMCA or CYO league, small different leagues around. So like you said, playing with under Ed Williams and playing my first AAU team with the Tar Heels, what was the AAU experience for you to experience? Was that something that you knew about, or was AAU brand new to you when I started playing?
I knew nothing about AAU. I had no idea of what AAU was. I had never been involved with other family members that had children that was involved in sports. So to me, it was completely new. But the experience was great. It taught you organization. It taught you team playing. You traveled a lot. The coaching experience, how to detect, humble yourself. Let me say it like that, to humble yourself, to follow directions, to realize that you're not the only one, that there could be someone always better than you. So within that experience as a parent, I kind of learned a lot how to get more involved in it, which I really appreciated, because as you got older and as your sister got older, I understand more of basketball and the team sports of basketball.
How about you, Dad?
No, we don't. Like she said, had no clue that there was AAU out there. I didn't know. I only knew of because of me being in Dynamites, but I didn't consider that like AAU, but it was. So basketball, no, and never heard of a bush rod until, you started playing. So it was an eye opener, and everything she said, I agree. It taught us, because it wound up in educating us to help. Here we go, cat. Help us for Asia in the future. So it was great, because it helped her down the road, and we were much more wiser.
It seems like throughout the whole process of even having children and them playing sports, you guys as parents were learning the same time your children were learning, whether it be on the court or off the court. That then transitioned from AAU to middle school, but also AAU to high school. And that's when, coaches start taking a liking, you start getting a little attention, playing in these AAU tournaments, like you said, playing with players like Leon Poe. So I started receiving letters. What was the recruiting process for you? Because a lot of parents do experience that, and some don't. And it's different for every student athlete. For you two, with Asia and I, how was that experience? But I guess I'll be selfish for this question, more so for me, because with me being the oldest, how was that for you guys going through that experience of the recruiting process?
Going through the recruiting process, we knew nothing about the recruiting process. Or let me say, I knew nothing about it. Maybe your dad had a hint. The only thing that I knew of recruiting is what I had seen on TV, the Blue Chip movie, Shaquille O'Neal, or kind of being recruited, and the coaches coming to your house. I never thought that would happen. It was a movie, didn't think it was, but it was truly an eye opener. As you stated, you receiving letters. I mean, to go to the mailbox every day and there's 10, 15 to sometimes 20 letters for you. Wow. It was amazing, but still, it didn't seem real. It wasn't something that we talked about openly, or bragged about, because it was something that we really didn't expect or anticipate. We like, yeah, okay, this is happening, but where is it going to go from here? So it was stressful at times. I would say the rules have changed now, but to have your phone ringing during that period of recruiting time or where the coaches could talk, it was stressful because the phone was constantly ringing. Coaches was constantly talking, wanting to speak to me, your dad, yourself, or calling just to talk to you at certain times of the evening when we come home from work, you're trying to do homework and feel like it was an interruption. But as I look back, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything.
How about you, Dad?
Yeah, it was brand new. I mean, the only thing I did was actually look at what others may have gone through. So I asked a few questions like Leon, and through mentors that he had. And so I asked through them. But it was trial by error. It was just, we'd go through it. For me, it was just more about trying to bring information to others. So I actually asked coaches, teachers to come in on the visits because they'll probably see it after we leave. And like I asked some of the coaches when they came to the house, I was like, how often have you ever come to this area? And one of the coaches said, well, 4 months in the last, he actually said, well, in the last 4 months I've been coming, and they was talking about you, but prior to that, never. So it was where down the road, we figured he's going to be coming back for some other kids down, in the future. So I just wanted to have other people, other AAU coaches be involved.
And that type of thing, I'd say that type of thing, not only with our family, but especially with you, Dad, started at a young age because you recorded all of my games if you were there. Even with the recruiting process, like you said, you videotaped. I've never seen or heard anybody do this, but you videotaped the coaches while they were meeting in our house. I'm pretty sure nobody told you to do it. So what was it not only about at a young age filming me all the time, but even to do something like that during the recruiting process where this is your moment, and you weren't recruiting, you weren't filming for the family. You pulled me to the side and said, this may help somebody along the way. But what was it that made you even think to do that during the recruiting process?
Well, I thought about when I was initially doing the filming of your games, I filmed the entire game and not when you were just in there and then you came out. I was filming the entire game because I thought that would be a tool to help you. So then when it came to this recruiting, I just thought this would be a tool, not just for you, so you would have a chance to maybe listen to some of the questions we were asking them, but also for anyone in the future who may want to look at this so they would have an idea of what to do and not feel like they have to go along, be alone in this process where they can have others people come into the home visit.
Another reason I asked that is because, during those home visits, we all know Mom loves to cook. So she made sure that she cooked the finest dish whenever we had coaches come to the house. Mom, what was it about that? You know, I just know you're a hospitable person. You just have love all running all through your heart. But what was it that you were trying to do? I know you weren't just trying to cook, but what was on your mind during those times as a mother?
Well, one thing I did, the coaches that visit, I, without asking them, kind of looked at the area that they were coming from and was trying to fix a dish around that. But what I was trying to portray there, shall I say, was to let them know that they were welcome in our home. This is what we do as a family. Um, and this is what I expect when my son come to your area, that you would treat him as a family member. I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed how they accepted it, how they ate and enjoyed the food. Thank goodness it was pretty good. At least that's what they told me. But I just wanted them to feel at home. I wasn't born in the South, but my parents were. And it was always that when someone was coming to your house, whether they got the call at 2 o'clock and say that they would be at your home at 4, one way of showing that hospitality was that you would cook a meal, that you would break bread together, that you would be able to talk and learn of each other. So within this period of time, I felt that over a meal, that I can find out a little bit more about the coaches, as well as they can find out a little bit more about us and our character as a family, and how important it was for us as a family to be involved in this process.
Family is something that a lot of people, when using sports, you hear that word used a lot. You know, our team is like a family, our program is like a family. It's not always the case. With you guys, having a son who was in a situation where he went to school 3,000 miles away, how did you have the trust within you as people and parents to know that the family atmosphere that you instilled in your children, or in me in that time, would, like you said, would be the same way when I go to a North Carolina or whatever school I might go to far away? That's not easy. That's difficult to let your child go at 18 years old to a brand new place. How did you have that trust in the coaches? Was that something that was built over time? Was it just through conversation, or was it just, you just had to trust it?
It goes back to the cookie. I felt it through that learning them through conversations. And I would say that when you did choose North Carolina, I felt very comfortable with the coaching staff. Very comfortable. We had talked often with Coach Roy, and when he called and talked, it wasn't really about you as a sense, but he wanted to know how we felt as parents going through this process. And again, it was a question: how are you going to feel if he should choose North Carolina? How are you going to feel with him going away? So with that in mind, with that coaching staff, when we took the visit, I felt very comfortable. Not only that, praying during this process. So I felt, even in my prayers, God, if this is what you see for my son, I feel that you would guide and protect him. So during that time, I had to trust God and realize that you're growing up to be a young man. You're not always going to be here. So I had to pull back and put my trust in God first, as well as putting my trust in the coaching staff, but also putting my trust in you that your dad and I had instilled in you the values of life, and that we instill in you that you would know what's right or wrong. Um, and I felt comfortable with that. So I was okay. And as long as I could talk to you every day or every other day or hear from you, that was a lot more comfortable. And then to know that, okay, in a month or so, I'm coming to visit you, felt more comfortable. But I then will say that because I was able to see you often on TV during games, I was okay. I was okay.
And that's something that just didn't start with college, as far as you guys being comfortable with coaches, of course. I've had, luckily, I can honestly say I didn't have too many coaches. I was pretty, I stayed around, just a select few coaches growing up. How important were the coaches, or do you feel coaches are in a child's life beyond just sports? Dad, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah.
How important do you feel how important do you feel the coach's role is for a child in dealing with sports?
Well, I think it's very important, because not all kids have been raised in a certain way to be able to handle going 3,000 miles or even 10 miles away from home. Because now we're talking about character. Because I've always told you this, is that your talent can get you there, but your character will keep you there. So it depends on how the coaches look at each individual that comes through his area, because you're always dealing with different individuals, different situations, different backgrounds, and if they are not used to that, it will be tough. And you'll see a lot of kids who, after 1 year, it doesn't work out for them. So I think it's important. And that's what we had to do, is we really had to try to ask more questions, try to figure out what was going on, even when we went on our visits. Because I've had people say, Quentin didn't committed to North Carolina, but they didn't know that we had already gone and visited, yes, Carolina, but we also went to Kansas, where he came from. So we were doing our due diligence while we were in Kansas, because what he left, we were out actually talking to individuals. How was he as a coach? So we were doing our homework while we were away from where he was, what he created, but come back and then find out what he's going to be doing at the new place he was going to. So
another part about sports that we all hate, especially those of us that have to go through it, injuries. How is that, watching your child have to put a pause on what he or she loves to do?
It's a difficult time. As a mother, as a parent, as anyone, I would say, that cares about that individual. But as a mother, it was very difficult, because the mom not only is dealing with the child physical injury, the mother is also trying to help the child through the mental part of that. And at the same time, still trying to be that strong mother for that child, to let that child know it's going to be okay. But to see my child injured, as I say, it's one thing, but to see my child injured and wondering, what is the next day going to be? Am I going to be able to go back to what I love so deeply? Will this affect my career? How will I? It's hard. It's very hard. You have to keep encouraging that child. as well as kind of encouraging yourself and praying. I'm not gonna leave God out of none of this process, but praying, because at that moment there is something during that time that a mother cannot control. She cannot control. When they're little or child, you can kind of put the Band-Aid on them and hug them. But what could I do with a high school or college young man, 6 foot and over? I couldn't pick him up, put him in my lap, rock him, and say this is okay. So it's a difficult time mentally, as well for the parents, more so than it is physically for the child, the individual.
For me, it was, I never did like you guys, when you guys had colds, I had a problem when you were younger. So I wanted to make sure, check with your mom, hey, what kind of medicine we have for you guys? I just hated it. But I realized down the road that you guys wanted to be, we were trying to develop kids who were independent. And especially when you get to high school and then go to college, you're going to have to go through things that, like your mom said, we won't be able to control it, but you will have to. It's going to be in your hands, and so how you handle it, and it's probably will be about what you have seen and observed, either through us or through others. Especially going through injuries. Now, we never had that type of injuries, but
I did.
That's true.
PCL.
That's true. So it still comes down to how you handle things, and all we could do is talk to you, like your mom said, and that would be almost every day, just to make sure you were okay. But for us, it was more about just you definitely give it to God, but more importantly, it was where you go through the process and see what they do, as well as how we handle it as well. So I just thought things were going to be fine. It just how the outcome was going to entail for both, because you don't know. You don't know.
I think it was harder for me with the injury of Asia than it was for you, because at the time that she was injured was at the peak of her recruiting time. And then to know the chances of her recruiting was very surprising to us. And when I'm saying surprising, because of her height. And then to be injured, I just thought it was going to just stop. And what is going to happen to this little girl? How is she going to deal with it? More so because she was kind of, with you, kind of different, but her, she kind of expressed her feelings. So when we did receive the call on her diagnosis of an ACL, and actually we were at the game when it happened, it didn't bother me, because it was like, okay, she injured her knee. Okay. But when we really got the call that she tore her ACL, I was at work, your dad and the doctor called. When I got home, I wanted to know what her reaction was. And what calmed me down was her statement was, if this is where God wants me to be, then I will accept it. So from that point on, I calmed down and I realized, okay, her and God got this. Her and God, physically and mentally. And we got through it. We got through it.
And
go ahead.
just to add on to that, just like she said, we've seen and heard few of kids when they get injured, then recruiting stops, and the coaches will probably say, "Hey, we'll wait till you get back to your normal self, after your therapy and everything like that, and then we'll check you out then.
Only two schools dropped out.
And she had quite a few.
Right.
And we don't want to go in there and talk about how many, because some people will say, good Lord, but that's what we have to say too. And I'm going to say it. She had at least 11 or 12 that had come to the house. There were more.
21.
Oh, wow.
21. Because I cooked for each and every one, except for 2. That's because we had it at the school. So it was actually 21 visits. 19 came to the house. 1 week, we had a coach at our house every day of the week. 1 weekend, we saw 3 coaches, 2 in 1 day. And believe it or not, each one of those visits for over 2 weeks, each coach had a meal.
That would be good.
But what I was going to say too is that they didn't waver in still recruiting. We had some coaches come to her physical therapy. Well, at least one that came to her physical therapy, and I was thinking, you guys are not gonna know. And that's where we were just astonished about you guys are not. No, we're going to wait until she decides what she wants to do, and she has to tell us. And they never did put any type of pressure on her. You didn't even go through that, as far as you'll have a time frame to let us know. This is a girl 5'4" that people were sitting there saying, we'll wait, and they told other recruits they're waiting. Unbelievable.
It seems with both of you, besides just a process, Mom, you brought it up, it was a process. No matter what part of the process, if it got too high or got too low, if your children were excelling, winning championships, or dealing with injuries, it seemed like you guys just tried to keep a balance. Looking back on it, you still have one child, and Asia's still playing. Of course, due to the pandemic, it slowed some stuff down for her rookie year. But looking back on, I'll say, just our whole basketball career, what are you most thankful for in everything? Because you've been able to have 2 children, one at the University of North Carolina, one at the University of Cal. Those are top 5 public universities. Your son, as soon as he leaves Tech, he goes to play at UNC, and he's a part of a national championship team his freshman year. So you guys are brushing confetti out hair the first year, and you're at the game with Asia when she's playing Stanford, their rivalries, and she hits a game winner, and all of these type of things that people are going to have their eyes on you. That's one question I wanted to ask you guys. Did you ever feel overwhelmed as a family or as parents to carry yourself a certain way? Or was it just, you just were living in a moment?
I wouldn't say that I felt overwhelmed to carry myself a certain way. The saying is, when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do. So I could be a chameleon. There may have been certain areas I wouldn't fully act the way I would act, but I would be myself. And I would let people know who I really am. And with that in mind, they knew that it wasn't about me, that it was about my child out there on the court. And I think people could sense that probably more so in me than they could your dad, because your dad was very laid back and quiet if he wasn't taping a game or what. But I was very vocal, and it wasn't that I was so boisterous or how can I say it, arrogant about it. But each time that I saw my child, whether it was on TV or in person, on the court, what I was looking at was the gratefulness of all of this, because I never would have imagined, as you say, that I would have been sitting in a Final Four stadium cheering for the team that my son's on. I never would imagine that people were actually walking up to me and saying, "Oh, you're Quentin Thomas, parents? Wow, he's amazing." And they wasn't talking about on the court. They were talking about your character off the court. We've seen, we've gone, we've met, we've experienced so much through you and Asia that I forget about certain things. I forget about people we've seen. I forget about people that we talk to. But I'm grateful for every moment of it. Like you say, to watch Asia play Stanford and had not scored the whole game, and you're down to 7 seconds, and she calls for the ball. To be honest, I didn't even see her make that basket, because as a parent, oh God, what's going to happen? She hasn't scored the whole game. So why is this? And when it was over, I actually thought everybody was cheering, and I kind of saw her had fell on the court and was getting up. I thought she had got a foul to go for the 3-point, and everybody was cheering and was saying, "No, she made the basket. She made the basket." And I was like, "What?" And I had to look up to really believe that. So through those experiences, just to even see you in your last year in college, to know that we've gone to Final Four twice. The last one wasn't a good outcome, but to know that we've experienced that, I wish every parent, every family that has a child in sports could experience what we experience, just a little bit. It was awesome. I wouldn't trade my life up until this moment for anything. And for that, I thank God for my 2 children. Because of him blessing us with you two, I couldn't have imagined.
What's the as the parents and athletes, like you just said, Mom, what was beautiful how you said it. You've experienced and you've been grateful for so much. Throughout all of this, what are you most grateful for in just basketball being in our lives or in our families' lives? You know, because like I said earlier, you guys have made sacrifices we will never be able to repay you for. But I know that the sacrifices you made were not only out of love, but it was for an ultimate goal and a reason. So looking back on the good and the bad, but an amazing career, I would say, for Asia and I, but as parents, what are you most thankful for in that journey?
What I'm most thankful for, that as a family, as parents, that it kept us humble. Humility, I mean, that's the key. It kept us humble, and it kept me forever being thankful. Just being thankful for this journey, being thankful that for the other people that have come in our lives. Like I said before, we've met so many people just at the beginning, and they're like part of our family now. You know, some of the coaches that we went through with the recruiting, yet you or Asia did not commit to those coaches. They call us to see us how we're doing. We call them. You know, when they're able to come in town, we're able to see them. When we go to North Carolina, we're able to go visit the coaches. Um, you know what, when I look back and now really thinking about it, I don't know how my life would have been without it. I think my life would have been completely empty, really completely empty.
What about you, Dad?
I saw this statement when we were traveling, and it said, "A destination is never a place, but a new way of seeing things." And that is what has happened. Your mom is talking about this. We got to see another perspective of life. Sports can do that. It can cause you to, it's not about the game, but the game of life. And you get to meet a lot of different people. And just like your mom said, we got to meet fans who come up to us and talk to us about not the game, but the character of our children. So it gets to the point where I wind up, and whether we go to, we've just been to a lot of different places because of sports. So I'm talking about whether it's Louisville, whether it's North Carolina, where it's Arizona,
Sheffield, England.
Sheffield, England. You meet all these different people, and that's what it's really all about: understanding other cultures and getting to know different people. So it's not really about you. That's been our problem. What do I get? So that's all I need to say, because she said most of it. So good.
Well, I have one more question for you guys. You know, I could talk to you guys all day. You know how your son is, but again, just thank you guys for taking the time out. But I do have one more question, then I'll let you guys go. If you guys could give any advice to parents who have a student athlete or may wind up having children in the future, and they wind up having a student athlete, it doesn't have to be basketball, it could be any sport. What advice would you give to that parent, that guardian, that aunt, that uncle, whomever it may be that's raising a student athlete? What advice would you give to them?
The advice I would give to them is, if it is sports, if it's basketball, baseball, football, soccer, volleyball, lacrosse, let it be that child's dream to succeed. Don't let it be your dream. Don't let it be the dream that you wish that you could have accomplished in that field of sports. Let it be that child's dream. And when you realize that it is that child's dream, just support. Just be there to support. And supporting doesn't always mean that you have to be on them with negative, you should have done that. Just be there to support them. And at the same time as supporting them, listen to them. But don't take your eyes off of them. Still be there as a parent to lead and guide them. But lead and guide them in their own lane. And don't push them in your lane. Let them create their own lane. And that way they can stay in their own lane. And with that, if you see them kind of veering out, that's when you can kind of come in and kind of push them back into their lane. But don't pull them into your lane. Just be there to support them.
I like that. What about you, Dad?
Yeah, it's more about making sure they have fun, that they enjoy it. I that's always what I said to you guys, is just have fun. You may have to, one of the things I did was I wanted you guys to be able to dribble the ball, and we worked on those things. And if it was shooting, okay, work on those. But when the kids, kids can be cruel, and that's what I'm saying. It's one thing about adults, but it's another thing when kids find out that you're pretty good. There's this respect that you receive from others, but then you build this confidence of yourself. And this is where you wind up, like my wife says, you can actually build confidence in a child through development, and then allow them to stay in their lane that they want to be in. And you just support them in any way you can. If it's helping them with dribbling or getting tapes for them, like I did. If I didn't know, I get that information for them. So just be supportive. My wife was right. I filmed. I was quiet. A lot of them didn't know who I was, and I loved it that way.
Well, again, I just want to thank you too. Like I said, I could talk to y'all all day, of course. I had so much fun just listening to your stories today, and your input. I honestly want to do a part 2. So hopefully y'all got time. We'll put that together. Don't worry about it. But again, shout out to Dunk Mama Media for this platform, allowing people to tell their stories, both student athletes and the parents of student athletes. And just want to thank you too for being my parents, being amazing people, amazing parents, and for everything you've done and continue to do in my life, as well as other people's lives. So I love you guys, and thank you.
We want to thank you for being the son that you are, and we're proud of you.